Oh, do you kind of feel like your life is like a blues song sometimes,
Mm.
where like the life of a musician is really challenging. It's a lot of hardship, and don't make enough money, don't get enough respect, don't get enough gigs,
Mm.
and then like your car breaks down and your lover leaves you. Right? It sounds like a blues song, right? And yet the blues has also has this really joyous and redemptive quality. And what we're going to talk about today is how to bring that to your life, into your playing, into your career overall, so that you can be filled with joy even in the face of life's many
Mm.
challenges. So, my name is Joseph Arnold,
I'm Aaron Bigeleisen.
and yeah, that's the talk for today. Another Soul Force music deep dive.
Mm-hmm.
And before we get into all that, I'd like to share with you some of our offerings. We have a free course you can sign up for, and also we're going to be launching a very special course called the Magic Pause. That's the simplest, most effective technique for releasing pain, releasing the kind of tension and tightness that causes musicians' injuries. So it's the single most effective tool for that. So we're going to tell you more about that at the end. It's coming up soon. You'll find the links for all that below.
Mm. Man, I'm so excited. I'm excited about the magic pause, but I'm excited to talk about this today.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Right. So, we all. It's like, why do we become musicians? It's like, one of my bandmates, um, he was describing meeting a bright young person going to college
Hmm.
for music, well, music business actually, and he was making a joke, but
Love the minor pejorative you threw on that.
he was making a joke, like like as if he was going to say to this young college student, like, why, why are you doing this?
Hmm. Hmm.
Because it's hard, and
Hmm.
the industry has changed so much.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I mean, I think if you ask most people who are 18, it's not like they're like, I just want my life to be fucking really hard and miserable. It's because they're like, I just, it's for me, it's hard not to also be in the same space. Like, oh, you naive fools, It's like I just love music so much. It's like, yeah, but I think that's generally if you ask
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
they just love the hell out of it, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, that's kind of the the pre-tragic phase. There's I've heard of this formulation: pre-tragic phase of life, the tragic phase of life, and then the post-tragic phase
Mm,
of life. And
mm,
that's actually a pretty good frame for
mm,
understanding what we're going to be talking about here.
mm.
So the pre-tragic is like, oh, there's so many possibilities. You got the stars in your eyes. You're going to music school, and then the tragic phase
Mm.
happens in music school
Mm.
generally,
Yes.
where I find out, for instance, that it's possible to be in a lot of pain
Mm.
and to get really stressed out about music
Mm.
and not have all that much fun.
Mm.
And then like the really tragic thing was graduating. Like, what do I do now?
Mm. Mm. Yeah, I think for many people, even if they have a positive conservatory experience, like
Hmm.
I know plenty of people who have had positive conservatory experiences, but then you just get thrown into the meat grinder.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's yeah, people who train to audition for whatever, a symphony job. It's like, guess what? Like, if you're lucky, you're building a teaching studio and maybe getting some gigs on the side. And if
Yeah.
you're not, you might be waitressing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So that, and we were kind of laughing about music business before, but I really wish that I
mm,
had been taught
mm,
like it was mandatory, because unless you land one of those jobs, and even if you do land, a job at a university or some other institution, you're still a freelancer in a lot of ways,
right.
and it really pays to have some basic skills around all of that. And that, I guess that's one of the really big. It felt like a punch to the gut. It's like, oh, I still have to be a business person. I just want to
Hmm.
make music.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah. I mean, and there was nothing that anybody did to dissuade me of the notion that I needed, that I didn't, my subconscious thought was like, I don't need to do that. Things gonna be fine. It's unicorn and rainbows after I graduate.
Yeah.
And nobody really did anything to dissuade me of that. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, then you get into the whole mess of being a musician. There's on all the levels. It's like even in a particular practice session, all those struggles that can come up in that, the tension and just like not getting it, and the tension and stress that comes around from trying to get gigs.
Yeah.
Or not enough gigs, or like the gigs just don't pay very much, and kind of scraping by.
Where they suck.
Yeah, a lot of gigs aren't all that much fun either. And a few people are lucky enough to build something that really works.
Yeah.
On their own, and other people are lucky enough to get jobs in institutions. And then pretty much everybody else, has to either scrape by or find work in other arenas and just have music as a hobby.
Yeah.
It's really tough.
Yeah.
It's really tough. And so what we're going to be talking about today, exploring, is like what comes after this tragic phase.
Yeah.
How can you face this very real challenge, all the levels of challenge of being a musician, with a sense of joy and saying yes,
Saying fuck yeah.
saying fuck yeah. Like, just imagine that, saying fuck yeah to your life.
Yeah, fuck yeah. So every morning it's like, fuck yeah, let's do this thing.
Right. Yeah. Wow. Let's let that one sink in.
Yeah. I feel better.
What would it be like? It's almost hard to imagine.
Yeah.
Right. So we can look to the blues for an example. So what are just like that? All blues songs basically about hardship.
Yeah.
And yet the feeling of listening, like going to a blues concert, is not meant to get you down. We're talking about hardship. We're looking at hardship straight in the face, and there's this joyful feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the genres that like both you and I love, like fado,
Portuguese folk music,
klezmer music, and I mean even thinking about like Shakespearean tragedy too. I mean, it's like you there is this like really deep dive into like that heart tearing whatever it is that's going on, and yet there's just such a visceral beauty, such a visceral celebration of the human experience.
Yeah. So, like, I think the first step in moving from the tragic phase into the post-tragic, like this is both the goal and the path, is to stop fighting the challenges, stop fighting the pain and suffering. Yeah,
I would even say just acknowledging that there's there's something past the tragic.
Thank you.
Yes. Because I think because for I didn't realize that there was even the possibility. It's like that's the thing. I feel like it's so easy to get trapped in this mindset that there can't be another way, either another way of being or another external possibilities or just a shift internally. Honestly, I would say that looking around Philadelphia, like my judgment is that most people, they're stuck in the tragic right now, and totally understandably so.
But so even just knowing that there's a possibility, like what if you could say yes to all of this? And we're not talking about ignoring what's wrong in your life or the problems that you have. In fact, we're talking about the opposite, because like the blues, it's all about the hardship, and yet there's this joy and redemptive quality. So this is not some new age wishy-washy stuff we're talking about here. It's like how to really face the very real challenges that are happening in your life, but with a very different attitude towards all of it. And I want to emphasize that you can't wait until it all gets better.
Nice.
in order for it to feel better.
Yeah, nice.
It's always going to be this way.
Yeah.
And even if you get a cushy job somewhere, even if you go on tour and it's so wildly successful, it's still going to be this way.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Because all pleasures are impermanent, as all pain is as well. But there's just this sense of things continuing. There's no like final resting place where, oh yes, now I'm finally full and complete. Like at least with outward um, circumstances,
Yeah.
such as the number of gigs you get or how well you can play or stuff like that.
I will say that. I will say that. Okay, so the paradoxical thing is also that like as I like deeply, lovingly embrace pain and suffering, my capacity to enjoy the shit out of the things that I like would like like that experience like you're at even like a cool gig or you're at a beautiful concert and yet there's a part of your brain that's just like when am I going to go home and like when can I make a pizza or whatever it is that like for me my experience is that like in totally embracing whatever it is some deep well of sadness or just like some deep hardship that I'm experiencing like my capacity to actually just really just like suck the marrow out of life has increased by like tenfold. So it's not just that it's like it's always going to be hard and you got to brace up to it.
Right.
Life also has a capacity to just fucking rock. And my judgment is that by not allowing to yourself to celebrate in your sorrow and celebrate in the hardship of life, you're also my judgment is that like, for me, I didn't give myself permission to enjoy in the celebration of life as well.
Right. So there's a belief that many of us have, especially in the West, that life shouldn't be this way. You just check yourself. Notice your own attitudes towards all the challenges you face. Do you have a belief like, oh, it shouldn't be this way? Oh, that shouldn't be happening. That belief is probably the number one obstacle to your happiness.
Yeah.
Because it's the resistance, it's the fighting of anything in your life that causes this sense of dissatisfaction.
Yeah, that difficult. This is difficult.
Yeah, the sense of having a problem.
Yeah.
Life is filled with problems. It has never been otherwise. What if it's not a problem to have problems?
Two thoughts come to mind for me. One is like, could you imagine how boring a video game would be if you just walk up to the boss and you punch it once and then you won? Like, I wouldn't play that game.
Yeah.
Or I would, and then I would win, and then that would be it. Like there's this great Alan Watts video. It's about like if you could dream any dream that you wanted to dream, what would you dream? And in the video, he's talking about like okay, for the first couple days you might like have all the food you wanted, right? And you could fly and whatever it was. But then that wouldn't be enough. So like you'd have a lover, a beautiful lover, and that wouldn't be enough. So then you'd have 10 lovers or 100 lovers. And eventually you get to the point where it's like all life is all so saccharine and so perfect and so predictable and so boring that you would want to change the dream. So you would then start to add some challenges into your day, right? So this might happen after a year or 10 years or whatever. But eventually you'd be like, well, what if something went wrong today? It's like, oh, could I figure that out? But basically what he's positing is that like life is actually perfect as it is. It's actually perfect as it is to have these challenges because without them, like I wouldn't feel anything. If life was just perfect every day, like it might sound awesome, but my sense is that eventually that would just be like this dull, kind of feelingless space.
Yeah. So if there is a trick here, it might be just simply saying yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at first, recognizing that there actually isn't a problem with your life as it is.
Nice.
And what's been so empowering for me is one like just this is what it was like. loving your life, loving your practice session, loving the gig, loving your career, loving yourself, loving other people is a choice. It's something that you do.
Nice.
You know, love is commonly referred to as this feeling, all the gushy feelings. But you know, if you have like one person who says I love you and then disappears, or you have the other person who says I love you and then like takes care of you, the second person is doing the loving, right? So if you have a gig, no matter what it is, and some part of you is already back home, or I mean that's fine as well, but if there's a sense of like, oh, I don't like this gig or whatever, then that's not going to be much fun no matter what the gig is.
Yeah.
But if you can choose to love the gig, it's a choice that you make.
Yeah.
It's not because the gig is so wonderful then that, okay, fine, I'll love the gig. It's, here's the gig. How about I'll just love the gig as it is, or I'll just say yes to this gig as it is. Like, how would that change your experience of it? Would that allow you to bring more of your heart to your playing?
Yeah, let's just take a moment with that. Yeah, if you could just choose, just allowing for that possibility that you could choose to love your life just as it is. Yeah. So I acknowledged to myself recently, I had this fear that I had this experience yesterday while I was in downtown Philadelphia. I went to a dim sum place. I got some dumplings, and I went to Franklin Park, and I sat there, and there's this beautiful fountain and a carousel that's running. It's kind of cold, but it's a beautiful day, and I'm eating delicious dumplings. And there's a part of me that I noticed was resisting this. There was and so I was just with that part, and I realized that the fear was that. So for me, it was just like the fear that if I really let myself sink into this experience, that I might want this all the time. It's like fear that like, oh, if I really let myself enjoy these dumplings, maybe I'll want them all the time, and then I'll become destitute because I really lean into my dumpling love. Yeah, and it's like, and so there's this, that fear is something, is a part that is trying to protect you in some way. It's not something that is like wrong with you. There's a fear. It's like, okay, if I really lean into this experience, like let's say for this gig, let's say it's a gig that you know in your heart is not the thing that you're really put on this earth to do. It's not, right? It's just like some wedding gig. The people don't really seem to care. The music's not all that great. Okay, and you might notice that that part's trying to protect you. There's this fear, like, if I let myself go into this experience and experience it fully, like, what if I then don't do what it is I'm actually supposed to do? That's the fear that lives inside myself.
Or what if the bad parts last forever?
Oh, nice.
That's the fear that came up for me.
Nice.
In all of this.
Nice.
Like, if I say yes to my life, the fear was going,
right,
then the bad parts are going to last forever.
Right.
Yeah. Except if you actually notice the bad parts of your life, they don't actually last forever. Everything that's bad that's ever happened to you, if you notice right now, it's gone. It's over. The anxiety or anger or stub toe that you had yesterday, it's over.
Yeah.
So all painful things are impermanent, and all joyful things are impermanent too.
Right.
And saying yes, or fuck yeah, choosing this.
Yeah.
Choosing this, that is what brings you into the post-tragic.
Yeah.
That's where you get the real sense of soul. That's where blues lives. This is where soul music lives.
Nice.
soulful music, not just a
Nice.
style soul,
Nice.
right? The music I love the most is it's just so tragic and um, heartrending, and I feel so great listening to it. You know, there's this unrequited longing, heartbreak, and it also just feels so good.
Yeah.
So that's, to me, like a real sign of what life overall could feel like.
Yes. Yeah, and again, I think it does. It's like starting with that possibility. Yeah. And I will also say that as I embrace whatever it is, let's say that for me, one of my deepest fears was leaning into my own sadness, because the fear was that I would get stuck there for forever. My experience now is actually, if I notice a little sadness in myself right now, as I stay with it, I start to open up like beautifully as a human being. I don't know if you notice this, my voice just got freer. Like I feel more present. Um, I'm not sad anymore. Well, there is some sadness, but but my overall experience is that of being like like overwhelmed with life, like filled with a living energy. Um, and yeah, so that's a possibility that if you're really present with, as or what was the way that you put it? If you just loving up on,
Yeah, loving up on your parts, your feelings.
yeah. If you really really love up on them, like they will show you a way of living that you cannot begin to fathom.
Yeah, yeah. It's almost as if so many of us, all the wounds that we have inside, they're it's like this obstacle course we go through life trying to avoid getting our wounds touched.
Mm.
And depending on the number and severity of wounds that you have, that could lead to a very prescribed, narrow way of being in the world.
Yeah.
And if that's your way of being in the world, it doesn't matter how much money you have, how much fame you have, how creative you are, then you're still going to be living in this little tunnel.
Yeah.
And so the way out of that is, one, to know that there's a way out of it, two, to say yes to all of it, and maybe three, to start loving up on yourself.
Yeah.
Self-love
Yeah.
is the deepest teaching of them all. So you could have a conversation when you feel something, when you feel an overwhelming emotion or just any kind of emotion, you say hello to it on the inside. You could have a dialogue like this. Like, hello, sadness. Hello, sadness. I see you're there. Hello, sadness. I love you, sadness. You just fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
And it might seem, I don't know, kind of wishy-washy or something like that. But that's another part inside you that's saying that.
Yeah.
Maybe some cynicism towards being well and being happy and being loving.
Yeah.
And so you could love up on that part too.
Nice.
So yeah, self-love has really been probably the most empowering spiritual tool that I have ever come across.
Yeah, I will say, like, yeah, if you do notice that cynicism, I mean, just really, like, if you're really, really honest with yourself, like, if I'm really honest with myself, like, how's the way that I want to show up in the world every day? Like, I don't want to show up, like, guarded and, like, not pretending that I don't have feelings and whatever it is, just kind of numb and just trying to get through it. Like, I want to show up every day, and, like, even if I'm, like, just, like, have so much sadness, I just want to be in touch with the world. I want people to know exactly what's going on inside of me. I want to be deeply present within myself. I want to be like effused with life, and yeah, that's what I want. And so just to be honest with yourself, like, how do you actually want to be? Like, do you want to be mad that you have a gig right now, or do you want to just like, or do you want to fight that anger? Also, on top of that, you want to add some extra layers of
Yeah.
whatever it is. just deciding, not whitewashing your emotions, but how do you want to be with how you are right now?
Yeah. Because there are certain people you might have heard of or seen or met in your life who just kind of seem okay
No.
with whatever they have in life. You know, it's kind of astonishing. It goes so counter to our Western conditioning,
Mm-mm.
and yet you can be one of these persons. It's a choice.
Yeah.
It's a choice you make.
Yeah.
You could do it right now.
Yeah.
Just say yes to this. What if this was just part of the human condition?
Mm.
Pain and suffering are just a part of the human condition, people. It's always been that way.
Yeah.
So you say yes to it.
Yeah.
And that way you actually get to live your life and come alive a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than...
No.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe we can end with that same quote that we keep coming back to here. Howard Thurman. Don't ask what the world needs. Ask instead what makes you come alive. And go do that instead. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive.
Yeah.
And you could live your life as a musician, practicing, taking care of yourself, gigging, teaching, whatever it is that you do, in a way that doesn't make you come alive. And you'd be lying on your deathbed at the end of your life, looking back like, it could have been better. Right? Do you want that? Or you could begin to say yes today. You could choose to say yes today. Live your life like a blues song. Because that pain and suffering ain't going nowhere. But if you say yes to it, it'll make it a lot easier to bear. A lot more joyful. And at the end of your life, on your deathbed, you can look back and see how rich your life was. How full it was. How meaningful. Richness, fullness, and meaning come from saying yes. You're not going to get them other ways. That's where they come from.
I've got two kind of two easy things for the end. So one is that you might start with faking it till you make it. And also, I will say that there is a space inside of you that already knows exactly how to live the fullest life that you're supposed to live. Like there is already, you could just allow for the possibility that there is a space already inside of you that knows exactly how it is that you ought to be in the world. And that just listening for that space, will yield beautiful fruit for you. The second is that living in a way that actually makes you feel alive doesn't mean that you have to start a Fortune 500 company tomorrow. It's just that feeling of aliveness. So listening for that way of being inside of yourself, and also which activities on the outside actually contribute to that. So it might be that something that some part of you thinks is really silly, like playing with clay, actually makes you come alive. And trusting that feeling over anything else, for me, has contributed to a life like full of wellness and possibility. So,
yeah. So, to conclude, what you might be wondering, okay, that all sounds nice. How do I start making this practical in my life? Yeah, and we've already talked about a couple things, just contemplating what it might be like to say yes, to start loving yourself, loving your life. And you might also want a very concrete tool that you can start to use. And that might very well be this magic pause that we've come up with. The magic pause is all about how to change your habits. Because tension in your body, that's basically what Alexander Technique addresses. But also tension and stress in your life overall, that kind of resistance to life. This is also a habit. And habits are universal. They all work the same way. First, you got to start noticing the habit, and then you got to have some way of changing it. Habits are hard to change.
Yeah.
I bet you've figured that out so far in life. And with this Magic Pause course, what we're going to give you is the root cause, understanding the very root cause of the kind of tension and tightness that might make your body uncomfortable, even develop injuries. But also like mental and emotional habits. You could apply this.
Yeah.
And so you'll understand the root cause, you'll understand exactly what to do in order to, instead of going down the same old groove in your brain, getting tight the same way, getting stressed out the same way, having new possibilities. Like, how do you actually begin to have new possibilities for your body, for your mind, etc.? You gotta have this magic pause. So we invite you to check that out. It's coming out soon, and if you sign up before
6/14.
June 14th, 21, then you can have access to an exclusive masterclass with the two of us, where you get to play your instrument or ask questions about the magic pause. You can apply that so you can feel better, feel more at ease, let go of the tension that you've always had, and maybe it doesn't even feel like you could change it, but you can let it go. And that's what this Magic Pause course is all about.
Yeah. And we also have a free mini course as well. This is something it'll take you less than 20 minutes. Let's see. I don't know. I'll try the title. Maybe I'll ask for some help. 5 simple and surprisingly effective techniques for reducing pain and relieving tension, even while doing the most difficult activities.
Practicing the most challenging music.
There we go. Something like that.
Yeah.
But it's really, you can take 20 minutes out of your life right now and make your life immeasurably better. I would say that's a pretty strong hook.
Yeah, it's free.
It's free.
Good. So please do subscribe to this channel,
Mm-hmm.
Follow us or like us or whatever you do, and reach out to us if you have any questions. We'd like to hear from you.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that's it, man.
all right. And if you want Alexander lessons, just let us know too.
Oh, yeah.
We do private lessons, and we have other courses planned for the future.
That's right. Oh,
So
yeah.
Please do stay tuned.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
See you next time.